Last week, my daily average screen time, I don't even want to admit this, but in the spirit of total honesty, I will, was 6 hours and 42 minutes. Today is Wednesday. Starting tomorrow, I'm going to replace all of my social media with reading. I'm starting a 7-day challenge on a Thursday, because who says I can't? I'm sticking it to the man. Let's see how it goes. Spoiler, I finished 3 books and cleaned my entire house. Honestly, the algorithm. Hello and welcome to Spinster's Library. I'm Claudia and I replaced all of my social media with reading for the past week.
Hello, this is a voiceover recorded about 2 weeks after I did the challenge. I forgot to say earlier, but my screen time reduced from 6 hours 42 to 3 hours 35. That's still a lot, but it's much less than it was before.
As a child, I spent a lot of my time rereading my favorites. There are books that I know so well that I read dozens and dozens of times. I could do that because I did not have the distraction of social media like I do today. I did not grow up in the Middle Ages. I did have the television. I did have the family computer. Those distractions were time limited, very strictly time limited in some cases. I was allowed to watch half an hour of TV. My brother was allowed to watch half an hour of TV, so we had a combined hour of television. But most importantly, that time was not decided by an algorithm.
The element of choice is a big one. As much as you want to think that you clicked on this video out of your own volition, the truth is that YouTube kind of shoved this down your throat. My analytics tell me in detail how my viewers find their way to my videos, and for the majority it's something YouTube calls browse features. You might be subscribed to me, or you might not, though if you're not and you've made it to this point in the video, you might as well. Browse features means whether you're a subscriber or not, you probably clicked on this video from the YouTube homepage rather than go to my channel page or from your own subscription list or from a notification you got because you clicked on the bell. So yeah, you might have clicked on this video out of your own free will, but it wasn't much of a choice. That's how YouTube works, and that's how all algorithm-based social media works. Instagram, TikTok, even something like Reddit is algorithmic these days. We have less and less control over the content we see online. It's spoon-fed to us in a way that books are not. By going up to my bookshelf and actively picking my next read, whether that's a new to me author or an old favorite, I'm making a choice. And that feels really good. It's agency, it's control, like we just don't get online. So yeah, I'm grateful to the algorithm for suggesting this video to you, but I don't like that the algorithm suggests so much of the content I consume to me. Does that make me a hypocrite? Oh, absolutely.
What this week has told me is that I need to take control of my life again. Not my life. Okay, that sounds way more dramatic than it actually is. I need to take control of my own consumption of content. And by content, I mean stories, I mean images, I mean videos. I'm not here to tell you that YouTube is evil and horrible and rotting your brain. I would be the biggest hypocrite if I were to do that, seeing as I am talking to you via the medium of YouTube. But maybe you and I could be both just try and be a bit more deliberate in our choice of media. So if we look at the most used apps, the number 1 most used app is Reddit, the second most used app is Instagram, the third most used app is Chrome. That's why I want to go on a complete social media app detox. My phone also tells me the peak times, as in when I use my phone the most. A lot of it is at night time. I am, and have always been, a chronic insomniac. My insomnia did not start with the use of smartphones. My insomnia started at about the age of 7. Since then, I've rarely had a good night's sleep, so I'm tired a lot, and I'm awake a lot at night. I fall asleep, and then I wake up in the middle of the night and stay awake for a few hours. A lot of you will know this. I don't really want to whine about my insomnia in this video, that's not what this is about. But that's when I use my phone, okay? My definition of social media apps might be a bit more wide-ranging than, strictly speaking, defined by the term social media app. I made a list on my laptop. Here are the apps that I'm going to just completely ignore for the next week. There's the obvious ones, Instagram, which is one of my most used apps apparently. Twitter, which I barely use these days. Blue Sky, same. TikTok, I don't really use TikTok. Goodreads, I don't know why it's in the list. I barely use that. And here are the big ones, the apps that are really taking up most of my time. YouTube. Yes, YouTube, what you're watching me on right now. I use YouTube way too much when I'm at home doing things like, I don't know, cleaning or getting dressed in the morning, or really any moment where I will have my laptop with me and have some YouTube video playing. I like the algorithm for the most part as well, right? YouTube knows me pretty well. Unlike Instagram, which keeps recommending mum and pregnancy content to me, Instagram, you don't know me, clearly. I'm fancy, so I've got a subscription to YouTube Premium, so I don't have to deal with ads. Sorry about that, by the way. It's good entertainment. I don't feel like YouTube is rotting my brain. However, what was that? However, it is not gripping me like books do. It is not keeping my attention. I don't watch a YouTube video and think about it for hours afterwards. I don't watch a YouTube video and then think, I'm gonna watch that video again, like I do with books. This is such a confused video. This is why I normally script my videos, right? Because if this was a video essay, I'd really sat down and thought about it, and thought about the impact social media has on all of us, and how a digital detox is a good thing, but on the other hand, we all live in a connected world, blah, 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 blah. You can imagine the sort of stuff I would have said, right? And there are lots of video essays out there about that topic. There is a trend, specifically I think a post-COVID trend, of wanting to disconnect from the internet as a whole, but social media specifically. And I get that. I get that craving of a sort of off-grid, in a digital sense, of an off-grid lifestyle. The second big app that is going to be hard to ignore for a week is Reddit. I'm not even an active Reddit user. I literally just scroll through the feed and just sort of take it all in. Like, I don't contribute. I don't use it as an exchange or as a community or whatever. It's literally just stuff I read and then forget about, as you do. At first, it was harder than I'd expected. Genuinely, on day one, at about 5 a.m, I'm in one of my insomniac phases as usual, and I found myself scrolling Reddit on my phone before I even realized I was doing it. That's scary. That is genuinely terrifying. Like a literal zombie, I was just there, lying in bed, just scrolling and not even realizing, and I don't even know how long I was scrolling before I realized, hang on, I'm not supposed to be doing this right now. So I put it aside and I started listening to my audiobook, because at that point I hadn't yet decided on an ebook. Throughout day one, I found myself with my phone in hand, just mindlessly tapping on a social media app, more than I'd like to admit. A lot about this video is more than I'd like to admit, so, you know, be nice. The last one, and this is really outside of the traditional definition of social media. The last social media app I'm going to detox is Vinted. I don't know if my American viewers know what Vinted is. It's a second-hand marketplace. It's where I buy the vast majority of my clothes. Now here's the thing, I'm not like shopping addicted. I don't constantly buy stuff on Vinted. What I do is I browse it, because Vinted has an addictively good algorithm, right? That shows me exactly the sort of clothes, jewelry, bags and nonsense that I'm interested in. And then I just go through it and I heart everything, I favorite it. It's essentially like how other people use something like Pinterest. I buy things on there when I need them. Like, for example, I recently bought a backpack. Do you want to tell people why I had to buy a new backpack? Was it because you pissed on the old one? I'm not spending all of my money on there. I'm not constantly buying stuff, but I am constantly browsing it. Browsing Vinted for hours and like liking the same black t-shirt in 7 fonts is not useful. It's not fulfilling. So what will I be replacing all of that social media with? As you've gathered from the title, I will be replacing it with books. I have never been a monogamous reader, right? I've never just stuck to one book and read that start to finish and then started the next one. I've always had a few different books on the go. I always have a workbook on the go, and that is quite literally a book that lives in my drawer, under my desk, at my workplace. And until very recently, that book was Jill by Amy Dilwyn. I've been reading this for months in my breaks at work, just in case you get the impression that I'm just like sitting at work reading books. No, I'm reading books in my lunch breaks and in my morning and afternoon breaks at work. So I have been reading Jill by Amy Dilwyn. I'm about 40 pages off finishing, and I won't be able to finish that book. So I need a new workbook. Do you want to tell people why I had to buy a new workbook? Was it because it was in the backpack that you pissed on? And the one I've chosen to start tomorrow is Excellent Women by Barbara Pym. There are certain requirements for a workbook. The first one is that it has to be small, because my work drawers are full of lots of other things, mostly snacks. It also has to be a book that I can dip in and out of. I don't know if that's going to apply to this one, because obviously I haven't read it. Everyone who knows my reading taste has at some point recommended this book to me, so I have very high expectations. I think this is going to be right up my street, and I say that with full confidence without even knowing what this is about. Hopefully, by the end of the week, I will know what this is about. So, this is going to work with me tomorrow, and we'll see at the end of the week how much of it I have read. On day one, on Thursday, I took my new workbook to work, Excellent Women by Barbara Pym, and I spent the breaks during my workday reading that. I got really into it. It was interesting to use the so-called screen breaks that are in my work contract, 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the afternoon, to actually, turn off the screen and not look at the screen, whereas a lot more than I'd like to admit, I would usually just turn off work screen and look at phone screen instead. I know, it's terrible. So I had a great Thursday at work, enjoying my new book. It's exactly the sort of literature I like. It's a fun mid-century book about spinsters, what's not to love. And then I finished my workday and I left my book there. On Friday, went into the office, continued reading my book during my breaks, got really into it, left it there at the end of the workday. And then I realized my mistake when I got home, because I was getting really into this novel, and now I would face 3 days, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, because Monday is my work from home day, I would face 3 days without it. So obviously I bought the ebook. I bought a completely unnecessary second digital copy of a book I already owned, because I couldn't bear the thought of not reading it for 3 days straight. I've also picked 2 paperback novels to read while I'm at home. One for the morning and one for the evening when I come home from work. I do not have the energy to focus on something like a difficult classic. I want something that draws me in. I want a page turner. And by page turner, I don't even mean like something that's action-packed and fast-paced. I mean something that's immersive. And the book that I have very high hope for to fill that brief is The Secrets of Heartwood Hall by Katie Lumsden. Katie Lumsden, who some of you might know, link down below. This is her first novel. It's set in the Victorian era. As far as I understand, this is heavily inspired by mid-Victorian classics such as Jane Eyre. It's the story of a governess who presumably discovers some secrets. I haven't read this, I haven't watched any reviews of this. I have incredibly high hopes simply because Katie Lumsden knows more about Victorian literature than anyone else I know. Oh, this is also not sponsored or a free copy or anything, and Katie doesn't even know I bought this. So that's my evening book. This is what I'm looking forward to when I come home from work, right? I started that book. It was supposed to be my evening book, my lighter reading, and I got so into it that I read it in the morning, in the evening, on the weekend. Just anytime I was at home and I had reading time, I was reading The Secrets of Heartwood Hall. Got so into it, finished it on day 4, and then had to really fight not to have a massive book hangover. And that's the sort of thing that I haven't had in such a long time. And a lot of you who are watching this who are not as chronically online as I am are looking at me like, duh, obviously once you cut away the mindless distractions of social media, you're going to enjoy books a lot more. What can I say? I'm not the brightest. And the thing is, I'm a millennial. I'm 34. I grew up in a time before social media. I remember my childhood, it's not that long ago, and I remember feeling exactly that. I would read book after book after book. I did not have the budget as a child to read as many books as I wanted to read. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking library. Well, let me tell you one story, yeah? Oh God, we're really being vulnerable here, right? I once, as a youth, had to pay 200 euros in library fines. Just let that sink in. You don't just pay 200 euros in library fines because you return a book like a week late. You pay 200 euros in library fines because you borrowed a book, read it, forgot about it, lost it, spent months digging for it, eventually found it, then returned it way late. You should have seen the look on the librarian's face. What I'm saying is I was not a child to be trusted with a library card, okay? And for very good reason. For my morning book, I picked a read that I know is going to challenge me a bit. And this is a book that I started reading before and then sort of DNF'd about 50 pages in. And that's Vile Bodies by Evelyn Waugh. I have not read any other of Evelyn Waugh's books. This is a bit of a strange pick to read first because it's not one of his big hitters. But look at this. How could I not pick this up in a shop? I love this edition. It's so gaudy and cheesy, and yeah, this is a sort of satirical novel, a bit of a critique of the party-loving young upper class of London.
I've never been a monogamous reader. I usually have more than one book on the go, but that doesn't mean I don't play favourites. When a novel really grips me, I will ignore all other current reads in favour of it. That's what happened here. Poor Evelyn Waugh was routinely set aside so I could continue the 2 paperbacks I was getting much more invested in. Ah well, it will be your turn one day, Vile Bodies.
Then I'm going to pick a book to read on my phone because there will be times in the following week where I'll be out and about without a book with me. And on my phone I have the app Serial Reader. Once again, not sponsored. This is an app that I downloaded a while ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, I don't even remember. I even made a video about this because this app genuinely impressed me. It's a free app and essentially it lets you read classics in little increments. I used this last time to read the book Camilla by Sheridan Le Fanu, a Victorian lesbian vampire novels. You know what, there's more Victorian lesbian novels than I would have expected in this video. Anyway, so I read Camilla whenever I last used this and wanted to make a video about it and then didn't make a video about it, so I want to reread that. So I'm going to use the Serial Reader app on my phone to reread Camilla. And if you're interested in the app, I have made a video just about this app, which I'll link down below. And once again, that video is also not sponsored. I found myself using the Serial Reader app on my phone a couple of times during this week. Notably when I ended up having to take my bicycle into a garage. Do you call it a garage if it's bikes you're fixing? Anyway, so some dickhead had knocked my bike in the work bike shed and the kickstand had basically fallen off. So I had to take it to get fixed. And while my bike was getting fixed, I was just sitting there in the waiting area of the bike garage place. And I was not prepared for that. I did not have a book with me, but I did have my Serial Reader app on my phone. And so I ended up reading a chapter of Camilla while I was waiting. It's not a lot, but it's some reading that I wouldn't have done otherwise. I'm also going to use my phone to listen to audiobooks. And that's something I do on the regular anyway. At the moment, I am in the middle of a kind of obscure but incredibly fun Victorian classic called The Sorrows of Satan by Marie Corelli. I'm having such a great time with this book. I am currently in chapter 13 out of 42, and the app tells me that I have 12 hours and 14 minutes left. In reality, it's going to be a bit less than that because obviously I don't listen to audiobooks on 1x speed like a psychopath. Obviously, I don't listen to audiobooks on double speed like a psychopath. I listen to audiobooks on 1.35 times speed, like a normal, well-adjusted person. So it's going to take me about 9 hours to finish The Sorrows of Satan. which I feel like I'll probably manage in a week, since audiobooks are going to be replacing my current YouTube watching habit. I have a pair of Shocks bone conducting earphones that I wear when I'm out and about, usually when I'm out cycling, because they fit nicely under my helmet and also leave my ears free to actually hear the traffic. And I like to use those at home as well. With no social media to distract me, specifically with no YouTube to distract me, I was able to listen to this book for long stretches of time while I was in the house and doing stuff. And that meant I was actually looking for excuses to do stuff just so I could have my little headphones on and listen to that book. And that is how I cleaned my entire kitchen, just because I really wanted an excuse, an activity to do while I was listening to the book. And finally, I haven't yet picked a book that I'm going to read on my Kindle e-reader. I have an ancient Kindle Paperwhite that I haven't used in years, but an e-reader is perfect for reading in bed at night because well, the one I have isn't backlit. It's got this sort of Kindle Paperwhite lighting, which means it's got little lights on the side that illuminate the paper but don't illuminate your face, so they don't shine at you like a phone screen would or a tablet, but they just make it really easy to read in complete darkness. Because what I don't want to do at night is turn the bedside table lamp on. I spend a lot of time around older women, not in a dodgy way, and I'm kind of jealous of the way that they, I don't know, leave their phone at home when they go to places. How do you even do that? Incomprehensible to me. One lady told me just yesterday that she had a screen time of like 17 minutes. How? Now let's be realistic here. I'm never going to have a screen time of 17 minutes a day. I'm too online for that. And I'm not just online as a consumer, but I am online as a creator. I can't like delete Instagram and YouTube off my phone and then still continue making content. I would feel so disconnected. So where does that leave me? I need to find a way to limit my consumption of social media. That's the thing that this week has made abundantly clear to me. I'll be using time limiting apps. I'll set a 15 or 30-minute limit on Reddit, on Instagram, etc. I haven't decided how I'm going to deal with YouTube because YouTube is my platform. I publish videos on here and I consume videos on here. So that'll require some further thinking. So there you have it. I was confused before this experiment and I'm confused now. Thank you for watching. Bye.